So why should you only use a few hard carry units? Why should you only use, in my opinion, like 4 to maybe 6? I think the answer is kind of obvious, but let's go into it. So in Fire Emblem games, you have resources, right? You have XP, you have weapons, in this game you have engravings, you have emblems, you have all these specific resources that you can dump into characters. Essentially you have inputs, right? And the more inputs you put into something, the better your outputs are, generally. So if you put in the right resources and attention into certain units, you will get really good results. And overall, when building a team for maddening mode, you want to build units that can perform a job, that can do something specific, and you want them to be able to do that very well. So as long as you invest most of your resources into 4 to 6 units as your main combat units that you want to kill things, you will generally easily beat maddening mode. Now, that leaves other units. What do other units do? So other units I would say should be utilities. So here are my hard carries in this game, in this particular playthrough. I have a bond target, Chloe, who is going to eventually get sword power 5, speed plus 5, and is just going to kill things on Levin Sword on Mage Knight. And I have the bonded shield user being Fram, so her entire job is just to bond Chloe. And eventually she could get Flashing Fist and Lunar Brace in one-round enemies, as well as be a bonder. So she's doing two things at once. She's being hard utility and also a player phase nuke as needed. But the two of them can basically hold down an entire front as long as Fram has, enough, high enough avoid so enemies don't target her. Because right now, her avoid next to Chloe would be like 109. So she still contributes as utility. And then Anna, she has Corrin. She can Radiant Bow for decent damage. She's a low level unit right now, so she's not like one of my hard carries, and I'm not having her go for kills. She's mostly there to shoot down flyers and clean up kills. And then we have Jean, who's just a staff bot. Now he needs more staves. Right now he just has his starting inventory, but I haven't deployed him for a few chapters. But he just chain guards and he heals. That's all he does. And then the dancer dances. That's what he does. So we have utilities and we have carries. And utilities can also be support units. So this Saline, I'm trying to get her speed up, but she also can be a staff bot who just does chip damage. I did give her Speed Taker and Speed plus 2. I'm going to try to get her into doubling threshold, so I just put her on Griffin. And I gave her Byleth, so hopefully she can start doubling. But she's not going to be one of my damage carries. My damage carries are Kagetsu, Chloe Mage Knight, Jade, funny enough, and to some degree Boucheron, especially as he gets Axe Power 5. So right now he's dealing pretty decent damage. This thing is pretty hard to kill this early. Usually builds don't get fully online. So 12 times 2, so 24 damage. This thing has 32s in both defenses. If Jade were to be able to hit it, she'd hit pretty hard with this, the Silver Great Axe. So, but she's like a main tank. So there's your hard carries, there's your support units, your utilities, and then of those, there's different roles. So you can have a flyer who dives in and kills key enemies or canters in and outs. You can have main tanks, you can have evasion tanks, you can have Vantage Wrath crit tanks. There's different types of tanking. There's also she's a mitigation tank. She just has high defense and good enough res on Ike to consistently tank. So she can deal really good damage on initiation, usually take almost no damage, little to no damage when attacking physical enemies, and one-shot them with Silver Great Axe. She can also Tomahawk, so she can Tomahawk mages, and she can go for crits if she wants to. I just made this for fun. She doesn't even use that. And then Chloe just goes for 1 rounds on Levin Sword. Alear is kind of a little bit underleveled, but Alear usually would have beginnings or something, some kind of engraving. The key thing with the hard carries is you want all of them to have higher level. You want them to be higher leveled than your other team, like the rest of your team. You want them to have forges. You want them to have the best passives. You want them to have the best engravings. You want them to have the best emblems. So they should have, all of them should have your best resources, right? They should all have something. And if they don't, then they're just missing out, right? So for example, Erica will probably be run on Kagetsu or Boucheron. Probably Kagetsu, and that'll keep him one rounding throughout the entire game just with the Lunar Brace. So, and that's on player phase. But there's a huge advantage to just dumping all of your resources into a few hard carries and then running the rest of your team as utilities. And just because a unit is utility doesn't mean it can't contribute. So in the case of like Ivy or even this Saline, they can just deal chip damage. So like you're not trying to build them as a hard carry. In this case, I was trying to get her into doubling thresholds, but she has a lot of friction. Like she has low build. Her speed is decent, but the weapon is really slowing her down. So like she has a hard time doubling on Levin Sword easily. But that being said, she can still contribute. Maybe she gets a few speed takers. I only have 2 speed takers right now. So that's another thing too. Like if you want to have units who can consistently double even fast enemies, you're going to want to run like 2, at the most 3 speed takers. So even your fastest units won't generally double enemy Griffins, enemy Wolf Knights, enemy Swordmasters, and in some cases like Heroes and even Halberdiers. Heroes can be fast for whatever reason. Thieves can be very fast. So if you want units that can double those, you want fast units that can speed take to get like above 40 speed. So in this case, Chloe, when she fully speed takes, she'll be at 40 speed and basically be able to double everything on this map. Like these dudes have 23 speed, 20 speed, 23. So like the fastest speed I'm seeing right now is 23. And the Flyer has 25. Yeah, so like if you can get your speed up high enough, you can double everything. And this is still middle game, so some of these enemies aren't too fast, but Kagetsu can't double the Flyers, Boucheron can't double the Flyers, so only Chloe can double the Flyers, and she also does have Lin equipped, so it definitely helps her. Gives her +3 more speed. So she's usually 26, then she gets +6 from her passive and plus Lin. So yeah, that's it for this one. Just want to talk about why you don't want to have too many combat units. So this is a mistake I made early on in my first blind maddening run, where I was playing this game like 3 houses and just like evenly leveling people up and trying to run like a full cast. But in reality, you should just have like primary combat units, and they can do way more than having a bunch of like 4 to 6 really good units can do more than 8 to 10 bad, like evenly distributed units, right? Evenly distributed units. So it's hard. It's also hard to spread out like forges, because you can only really forge so many weapons. You can only really engrave so many weapons. So if you run 8 combat units, there's only like a handful of useful engravings that enable combat units. So spreading those out among 8 units, unless you're using only S tier units that have like low startup costs and good bases, you're gonna have a hard time using all of them effectively, and ultimately someone's going to fall behind on XP. Unless you plan on like doing grinding or every single paralog or something. But yeah, that's it for this one. Definitely like and subscribe if you found this useful. Feel free to drop a comment, let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next one.